Hello, welcome to the course English for Specific Purposes. Today we are on topic 2 and this is Dr. George Pereira for IHS and OUM. So, a historical perspective on English as for specific purposes. In the 1950s and 1960s, with scientific developments and prosperous oil industry in non-English speaking countries and frequent stay of businessmen and international students in foreign countries dramatically increased the need and practical usage of English for specific purposes. The need for commercial English for incoming Huguenot and other Protestant refugees to England in the 16th century led also to a focus on business English in early ELT, and that actual textbooks on commercial English and business letter writing were a feature of ELT from the 19th century. It's all about the European history and the industrial development and so forth, and the people's migration from one place to the other for different purposes, maybe for learning or for work. So they needed to master the English language, so in their particular specific areas. So that is the history. Then trends in English for academic purposes. There is another trend, English for academic purposes, more focused on certain things, and of course, four identifiable movements in English as for specific purposes. The four movements within this discipline. One is register analysis in academic English. That is, authenticity of the language is determined by the lexical and grammatical features, the vocabulary and grammar, the structure of the language. So that was the focus for academic English. Students should know to write and they should master vocabulary. Then the other movement is rhetorical and discourse analysis in academic English. Rhetorical means an essay that breaks into parts, creating an effect. So the essays like persuasive, argumentative essays that has a logical connection, we call it has a coherence. So that is the rhetorical aspect of the text. Then the other one is the discourse analysis. That is authenticity of a language that is produced is determined by the act of communication involving a sender. So communicating in English as a second language for academic purposes. For example, a science student making a presentation involving that aspect of English language, English for science. Then the other one is analysis of study skills for academic purposes. In this, English for specific purposes, special for academic purposes, the language is concerned about communicative language teaching. Students should know to communicate. English for oral communication, English for written communication in academic English. So it is a thought process that should be introduced is learner-centered. They work in groups. They produce the language. Then the other movement in academic English is analysis of learning needs. So there are different models, and you also will have to produce a needs analysis for your students. That is a part of your assignment. So analysis of learning needs. So it has to be a detailed one to know the learner in a learner-centered approach. Know your learner, what their needs are. Based on that, you do the academic English as part of English for specific purposes. Then we move to another area, that is authenticity of text and authenticity of purpose. Authentic text, authentic purpose is in the real world context. So text should be authentic or genuine or contrived. That is one approach. Then another theory is students should be exposed to authentic texts and be taught strategies to read them even if they are complex and difficult. For example, science student. It's not just general English for a science student. Science-related texts the student should be able to read. So it is authentic text. It's genuine. So that is the authenticity of the text. Then authenticity is also remarkable regarding the type of exercise that students undergo. Just finding a sentence from a text or answering a comprehensive question is not authentic use of language at all in ESP. Then we are moving to trends in English for occupational purposes. Occupational purpose, for job, for a career. So, English. Earlier, the emphasis was on standard letter formats through a linguistic approach. Actually, I would call it the structure of the language, the vocabulary, lexical, and the grammar. Later, the approach changed to communicative approach, that is spoken interactions at the occupation. They should be able to communicate. Then mid-90s, 1980s, more perspectives are introduced and more varied courses added. ESP learning pays attention to at least the basic skills and management training approaches. Methods are being integrated with language training techniques. It's all learner-centered, management training approaches. So all these things are introduced into occupational purposes. Then English for specific purposes today. It is interdisciplinary. It brings content from different disciplines, bringing all the movements together with other disciplines. So there is the emphasis on material production based on genre analysis. New interest is generated on register that we discussed earlier. Incorporating corpus studies, that is the text in real world context. So just study these terms, genre, a particular language, and then the register and the corpus studies. It's all communicative approach, I call it, in the real world context. So business English has also become a dominant discipline with a new interest in business development and economies. So in conclusion, English for specific purposes is a relatively new movement with much potential in its growth in different environments for the learning of English. So we studied different types of English. I would call it actually not different types, but different approaches. English for academic purposes, English for occupational purposes, and then movements, the approaches to teach English in such specific contexts. So, let us go to some questions. Some ESP scholars emphasize the need for authentic texts. What do you think? Why? Answer. Though this definition, authenticity of the text, may be unclear, but there are two views: authenticity of the text and authenticity of the purpose. There should be an interaction. Text can be simplified but used authentically by learners depending on their levels. For example, a tertiary level text can be simplified, and the ideas used for lower secondary students. They can use the information to help solve a specific problem. So, in this sense, it is authentic use of language in an ESP context. Then what is the situation of ESP now? Emphasize its difference from past developments. So this is a part of applied linguistics. It has a flexibility in approach. There are different approaches to suit the situation. A major trend in the development of business English. Past developments have been rather rigid, focusing on specifics such as register analysis, that is lexical and the language structure, the grammar, then the discourse and rhetorical analysis, and learner-centered approaches. Today there is a drawing together of strands of knowledge that is put to good use for meaningful learning within the specific ESP context with its specific needs. So with these approaches and the developments, as a teacher, you have to reflect. If you are teaching English to adults, it could be general English, just general text, grammar, but it could be also for specific purposes. For example, English for academic purposes. You are teaching the students in the university, those who are in the orientation program, they are new students. So how do you design a program? Then also, how do you teach English to the students who are already in the university and they are involved in their coursework? English for medical students, English for arts students in different streams such as geography and so forth. English for commerce students. So all also with English for academic purposes. And then the approach. Is it just structure and meaning of the language? Or is also the meaning of the text? And what do we consider? Are they able to communicate in the specific areas of their study in English language? Then English for occupational purposes. English for technicians, electricians, English for doctors, English for teachers, and so forth. So let us think about it and how, as a teacher, you would apply these developments in English as ESP, English for specific purposes, into a context. So think about it, reflect about it, and thank you, and let us move to the next topic in this course. Thank you.